The Crysis games, especially the first one, are most often associated with their gorgeous graphics. Back in 2007, the first game in the franchise was relentlessly memed about because of its high system requirements and the fact that even the most advanced of PCs struggled with running the title smoothly. Today players can enjoy the entire Crysis trilogy on the go, as it was released on the Switch in 2021. The Crysis Remastered Trilogy is a faithful upgrade of the 3 games in the franchise, all of which pushed FPS gameplay forward, especially in the realm of graphics. You'll play as a super soldier dispatched to an island for a mission. Then everything goes wrong when you're asked to stop a sudden alien invasion. Your superpowered suit will help you even the odds against the foes as you upgrade it to fit your style of play. With 3 different stories and a lot of armor, upgrades across the trilogy are going to have a lot to do and a lot to kill. Metroid Prime is considered to be the best game of the GameCube era, as well as one of the best games of all time. The much-anticipated remaster of the very first 3D Metroid game was released without any prior promotional activity during a Nintendo Direct event in January 2023, and turned out to be just as good as the original, if not better. Aside from updated graphics, Metroid Prime Remastered has introduced some quality-of-life improvements to the classic game, such as gyroscopic aiming, a modern control scheme, and a variety of other customization options. Warhammer 40,000 is the perfect blend of classic, crazy FPS gameplay and stylish visuals from your favorite 90s retro shooters. You'll play as a battle-hardened space marine on a dangerous mission across the galaxy as you battle against the Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Demons. Unleash your devastating Space Marine arsenal as you blast fairies, pixels, and blood blasts in glorious boomer shooter style. Run, jump, and charge through massive levels to shoot, smash, and slice the galaxy's worst perverts. The game offers an instinctive combat experience, complete with brutally satisfying gunfire, high mobility, and buckets of blood to reward your skills. You will dominate the battlefield with the awesome firepower and heavy metal of a Space Marine's devastating arsenal. It's a nice new game to try if you like retro FPS games. The BioShock games are set in alternate historical timelines, showcasing ambient dystopian worlds, and this collection includes all 3 in remastered form. The first 2 in the series cover an underwater city known as Rapture, which isn't as wondrous as it may first appear. And you soon find out it's home to some uniquely horrifying enemies, destroying it from the inside out. BioShock Infinite takes place in the air rather than below the sea and takes you to the floating civilization of Columbia. It has deep-rooted problems of its own, and you'll need the help of a companion to escape. Aside from the classic FPS weapons, you also have enhanced abilities called plasmids and vigors, which can shock and burn an enemy or two. Bright Memory Infinite is a short and sweet experience. It takes roughly 2 hours to get through the main storyline and about 6 to arrive at 100% completion. Still, its beautiful graphics and the interplay between shooting and melee combat make for a fun experience that perfectly shows what the Switch is capable of when enough care and attention is dedicated to porting a game to the platform. Bright Memory Infinite is a short and sweet experience. It takes roughly 2 hours to get through the main storyline and about 6 to arrive at 100% completion. Still, its beautiful graphics and the interplay between shooting and melee combat make for a fun experience that perfectly shows what the Switch is capable of when enough care and attention is dedicated to porting a game to the platform. Developed by People Can Fly, a Polish studio responsible for titles like Outriders, the Painkiller series, and Gears of War Judgment, Bulletstorm was initially released in 2011 and generated a fair bit of praise for its humor and an arcade-like approach to the combat, which places an emphasis on creative, spectacular takedowns via its skill shot system. Players who like action-packed shooters that don't limit the ways in which they can approach each encounter will feel right at home with Bulletstorm. The Switch version of the game also comes with a Duke Nukem skin, which replaces Grayson, the default protagonist, allowing players to play out the campaign as the iconic character. This rendition of Doom brings back the mayhem and destruction from the original in a remade version for modern consoles. You'll be met with incredible demons, intense weapons, and fast combat that will surely keep you coming back for more. The Nintendo Switch version was introduced a year later and still manages to hold on to all of these same features in a compact console. Players can enjoy the hellish single-player campaign, as well as numerous multiplayer modes that you can play with up to 12 of your friends online. Considered by many to be the most impressive port on the Nintendo Switch, Doom Eternal serves as an example of just how much can be done on a system with such limited hardware capabilities. The game runs at a steady 30 frames per second throughout the entire campaign and doesn't limit the experience in any way compared to the PC and console releases, aside from the downscaled graphics. The Switch version of Doom Eternal also includes the gyroscopic control option for aiming, which is certainly a welcome addition for all those preferring to play in handheld mode. Gameplay-wise, it's classic Doom action, fast-paced encounters with dozens of monsters rushing at the player from all sides, tons of gore, and the heavy metal soundtrack to boot. When Borderlands 2 arrived on the Switch, it was packaged as a Legendary Collection and also included Borderlands and Borderlands the pre-sequel. Despite being over a decade old, the second entry to the series deserves a spot on this list. You'll be able to enjoy the game either by yourself or with a friend using local 2-player split screen or 4-player online play. It also comes packed with all available DLC for you to enjoy. Proteus brings another solid example of a modern FPS game, going for a retro aesthetic, designed with a dual art style of pixel and 3D. It shares many similarities to Doom, including the enemy design and over-the-top gore, but less so the suit UI perspective, since you don't see through the Slayer's Predator helmet. There are some cool particle effects, environments, and a weapon selection that's sure to do some splatterfest damage. Another fun aspect of this game is that it also offers multiplayer and has an implemented level editor, so you can create your own or try out other players' designed levels. Immortal Redneck is an FPS set in Egypt with roguelite elements. The game mixes old-school first-person shooter action with roguelite mechanics. Frantic gameplay, twitch controls, and an arcade-style feel meet randomly generated dungeons, a complete skill tree, permanent death, and 9 classes with different traits. The game revolves around a redneck tourist who wakes up mummified in ancient Egypt after an accident. Moscow has been turned into a poisonous wasteland, and the survivors are forced to live their lives underground, deep in the tunnels of forgotten metro stations. The story is based on a novel of the same name where you play as Artyom, who has never ventured outside of the underground before, but must do so once the fate of mankind is left in his hands. Ammunition is scarce, and you need to rely on the light of your flashlight to ensure that you can get to your destination safely. You can also get 2 for the price of 1 since this game comes packaged with Metro Last Light Redux when purchased physically.
We gotta make them pay! Ammo! Casualties are mounting!
That's some fine wasteland. You guys sure did a good job here.
Last Light follows the story of Artyom from the previous installment, Metro 2033. A year later, Artyom's missile strike against the Dark Ones has already occurred. There are 2 different playstyles, Spartan and Survival, that give the game a survival horror approach, or a combat skill approach respectively. The game was co-written by the author of the original books and follows the tone of his vision. You can also get the previous installment of the Metro series with this game if you purchase it physically.
Watch out. Look, there's more in the reeds.
Dive into this engaging and funny strategy-based shooter. You, like a naughty space pirate, will hop aboard a ship and pillage your way through, sneaking and shooting your way through various cabins. You'll have to make all of this magic happen before you run out of oxygen. Your character will have uniquely generated traits that might work against you, so you'll need to be mindful of that as you progress. The game is unique on this list in that it tells the story through excellently illustrated comic strips sprinkled with witty humor. This all adds to the game's overall aesthetic and complements the fun and engaging gameplay nicely. This is a difficult but immensely enjoyable game. The Wolfenstein series is one of the most important franchises in video game history. 1991's Wolfenstein 3D is widely recognized as the first ever modern first-person shooter. For years, the series was overshadowed by ID Software's other titles, like Doom or Quake, but the recent Wolfenstein games have enjoyed a fair share of popularity as well-polished, story-focused shooters. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus was a title that saw a port over to the Nintendo Switch about a year after its initial release. The story follows protagonist William Joseph Blazkowicz through a Nazi-controlled America as he searches for resistance leaders to assist him in the fight. The story was popular enough to garner enough love for a co-op sequel to be made featuring BJ's twin daughters, Jessie and Zofia. New Colossus didn't receive the greatest praise when it was put on Switch, but we can all agree that it's still an incredible story.